Welcome to Marlene's Atelier. In this lesson, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the relationship between the armscye and the actual sleeve. I'm going to show you how to take direct measurements of the armscye and how those direct measurements relate to the actual sleeve itself that we'll be drafting together. You won't want to miss this lesson. That's what's happening today in the Atelier. Welcome back, and I wanted to just take a little step back before we go diving into actually tailoring the sleeve. I wanted to take a moment to explain to you the relationship between the actual armhole or the armscye and the sleeve itself. Sleeves are, without a doubt, from a British bespoke tailoring standpoint, one of the most difficult parts of tailoring a jacket. And I think that difficulty, a lot of that difficulty can be overcome if you understand in totality the sleeve itself, okay? So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how to take the measurements from an armscye and actually translate them into a sleeve pattern. And I think when you see how these measurements directly relate to the sleeve pattern, you'll be quite surprised. And you'll find when you go to actually put the sleeve into your garment, all right, that you'll understand the relationship between these two parties, if you will, all right? So I am getting a little analytical on you, but I think stick with me and I think you'll be like, wow, that's really cool. All right. So what I've done is I've drawn here a draft. Excuse me, I've got a lot of chalk in my throat from doing all this. I've drafted out a jacket here, if you will. All right. What we're going to spend close attention to is the actual armscye itself. So you can see in this jacket pattern, there's a lot of numbers, okay? And of course, you need all that to draft the pattern itself. But I want to go around and I want to just explain to you the armscye and highlight that, all right? The very first point I want to highlight is this line right here, okay, which is called our pitch, all right? This pitch line we're going to call B up here. And I'm going to mark that in some blue chalk. All right, so this is going to be B. So this is our back pitch. When it comes to putting in our sleeve, we have two pitch points. We have the front pitch and the back pitch. The front pitch is right here, depicted by 27. And I'm going to label that A. All right, so we have our front pitch and our back pitch. Why is that important? Because on our sleeve, we actually also have a front pitch and a back pitch. And between those 2 points on the sleeve is where the majority of our ease is put, all right? And so what we need to understand is how to effectively, all right, distribute that ease between the 2 pitch points, all right? So that's number one, okay? The second thing that we're going to do here is we're going to actually come in and draft the crown height, all right? Because people always say, well, how do you know how much crown you should put in something? Well, here you're going to find out just how you go about doing that, okay? So the first thing that I'm going to do, and I'm going to do this in blue chalk, by the way, so you can really see it. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line from our back pitch B, okay, across to where 26 crosses over our line here, okay? So the front part of our armscye is crossing over our 21 line, this line right here. I'm just going to draw a line from there to there, just like that, all right? Then if you can see, we have a point 15 up here, all right? I'm going to draw a line from point 15 to that point right there, okay? Boom. Easy breezy, just like that, okay? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line from 26 right here, okay, to B, all right? Just like that. And finally, I'm going to draw another line, okay, from 15 to 26, okay? So that's all you have to do, not too hard. Now, in order to find our crown height, we have to find where these areas intersect. So right here, X marks the spot. What we're going to do is we're going to measure from our line from B across to our 26 line, all right? That is going to give us a measurement of about 4.5, okay? 4.5 centimeters, all right? So what that's telling us is at our lowest point, okay, if we wanted the smallest crown available for this particular armscye, 4.5 would be it, all right? And on the high end, if we measure up to our line where 15 comes across to 26, at the high end, all right, and we're measuring right through where the two, the X is, okay, it would be 7.5. So we've come over here and we mark that our crown would be anywhere from 4.5 to 7.5 centimeters, okay? That's going to be our first measurement. Now you have to think, and this gets into a whole nother topic, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, okay? But how tall you make your crown depends on the figure that you're making your sleeve for. So if you're making a sleeve for somebody like me, I'm not terribly muscular, I'm not terribly big in my arm, okay? So probably staying on the low side of that crown, 4.5 or 5, would probably be great for me. But if we had a football player walk in this room, okay, and he had very broad shoulders and he had, very large muscles in his arm, we would probably want to go more with the bigger crown or a higher crown, if you will, at 7.5, okay? Now, it's always good to err on the side of giving yourself a little bit more crown because you can always take it away. But more importantly, I just wanted you to see how it was calculated, all right? How do we get the crown? And so the crown is derived directly from the armscye, all right? Now, we are going to actually put together a sleeve pattern, a tailored sleeve pattern. I'm going to show you how to draft it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come through, excuse me, again, I've got a little chalk in my throat. I'm going to come through here and we're going to take some measurements, which I've already marked over here on the board, okay? And so what we're going to do is just walk our way around the entire pattern using specific marks from the pattern itself, okay? So the very first measurement we're taking is from this mark right here. I want to stay in the camera. I know it's kind of a broad shot here. Is from here, which is 12. And 12 actually represents or sits on our chest or scye line, okay? So our armscye is theoretically in the same area as our chest. So we're going to measure from the chest up to our pitch point, if you will, okay? And that measurement for me, okay, is about 12 centimeters, all right? So we've got about 12 centimeters. So I'm going to mark that right over here. So from 12 to B is 12 centimeters, okay? So from 12 to our pitch point, from the chest to the pitch point is 12 centimeters. Now from our pitch point up to the tip of our shoulder, okay, 15 here is the tip of our back shoulder, okay? That measurement, and I'm measuring on the curve with my tape measure, okay? That measurement is going to be 8.5 centimeters, okay? So again, we're going to put 8.5 here. All right. Then what we're doing is we're measuring, our next measurement is from the tip of our front shoulder, okay, to our pitch point. Now, what's important, our front pitch point, what's important to note is our front pitch is coming up 2 centimeters off of our Scye line or our chest line, okay? Just keep that in mind. So if we measure that around on the curve with our lovely tape measure here, okay, we are going to get about 18 centimeters. So we'll take that and we'll bring that over here, okay? And finally, we're going to measure from 28, this point here is 28, to our front pitch. So this is where the side body, here's our side body right here, okay? This is where the side body, excuse me, and the back of the jacket meet. So this is the portion of our armscye from approximately right here under our arm to the front pitch, okay? Just to give you a perspective. And again, I'm going to measure that on the curve. And that is going to be about 16 centimeters, okay? 16. So we have all these lovely measurements, and there's a couple extra that we need in order to draft our armscye, or excuse me, our sleeve, okay? And that is going to be a measurement from the back of our arm here, if we were to measure the length to our elbow, okay? And then the back of our arm here to our wrist. We need to know how long where our elbow falls and where our wrist falls on our sleeve, okay? So hopefully so far that all makes sense. So you're like, well, big deal. You took a bunch of measurements. Yes, I did. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take those measurements and I'm going to show you how they directly relate to our beautiful tailored sleeve, okay? Now, what I've done here is I've just started us off with a nice couple of lines that are squared beautifully, okay? Whenever we're drafting, we want to make sure that all of our lines are at a nice 90-degree angle, okay? So we're just going to draft our sleeve right in this point here, okay? Now this is also called what's called a false front sleeve, okay? Or a false forearm sleeve. Why is that? Because the actual seam for the sleeve is set back a bit so you don't see it, all right? So it's set back a little bit so you don't see it. All right. So we're going to go through this. This area right here where these 2 points meet is our 0 point, okay? Now, if you can kind of, sort of, a little bit imagine that this line here, okay, corresponds directly to our armscye or our chest line, okay? Then we're going to go from there. So our very first point from 0 to 1, we're coming up 2 centimeters, okay? Now these 2 centimeters represents our front pitch right here. So that makes kind of sense because we came up from 21 here to 27, we came up 2 centimeters. So we're going to do the same thing here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to square this line all the way across, okay? If you can believe it, this line, this is 1, okay? 1 is actually going to translate into our front pitch. Makes sense, right? Totally makes sense, all right? Okay, our next point 2, all right, is we're going to take our measurement from 12 to B, and we're going to come up to point 2. So we're coming up 12 centimeters. Now again, this makes sense because we're coming up to, okay, the same height as our back pitch line, okay? So what we've done in the first 2 points on this sleeve is we've established the front pitch and the height of the back pitch, all right? Now what I want to do with this 2 line is I want to square this all the way across, okay? Like so. All the way across. Okay. Now, because I can't do math in my head, especially when I'm on camera, because I get all nervous. All right, what we have to do now to establish our 3rd point, okay, is we have to take A to 26, which is 18 centimeters, okay? We have to add that with B to 15, which is 8.5 centimeters, okay? And we have to subtract 1.5 centimeters from that, all right? So that is going to give us, whoops, so we have 18 plus 8.5, that's going to give us 26.5 minus 1.5 is going to give us 25, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to come up from 1. I'm going to put 25 here at 1 on my ruler, and where that hits, okay, my 2 line, all right, is where my 3rd point is going to be. So this is where 3 is going to be, right here, okay? So this is 3. So think about it. What we've done is we took a measurement, okay, from here, okay, from our front pitch to the top of our shoulder, okay, and then from the top of our shoulder in the back to our back pitch. So we're looking at how much area do we need in here in order to make our sleeve big enough for the front and the back pitch to fit with one another on the sleeve and the jacket. Pretty cool. I just love this. I just think it's so cool. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to square 3 all the way down, okay? So imagine, if you will, at this point, okay, this is the front of our sleeve, okay, and this is the back. Just think of it like that, all right? Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to measure from 2 to 3, okay, find our midpoint, okay, so if I measure 2 to 3, it's 22, half of that's going to be 11, and I just want to come over 1, okay, so I'm going to minus 1 from that, so I'm going to come out from 2 to my 4, okay, 10 centimeters, all right, so all I did was take half of 22 and move over a centimeter towards the front of the sleeve, okay, 1 centimeter. Okay, so this is going to be 4. And what I'm going to do with 4 is I'm going to square that up as well. Now, what we have to decide is how tall we want our crown to be, all right? I don't think we need to go too wackadoodle with this, so I'm just going to give us a nice crown of, say, 5.5 or 5. Let's just say 5 centimeters, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up from 4, 5 centimeters. In fact, you know what? Let's just make it 5.5. I think that'll look a little nicer. Okay, so here's 5. So that's our crown. Okay, that's the crown. And what we want to do is we want to just draw a dotted line from 5 to 1, making sure that we cross over our 2 line here, okay? Where this line crosses is our point 6. What I'm going to do from there is I'm going to move over 3 centimeters to 0.7. Okay, just like that. And now what I can do is I can connect all of those points, okay, to give me the top of my top sleeve. Okay, so on this sleeve we have two parts. We have the front, which is the top sleeve, and we have the bottom, which is the undersleeve. We're working on the top sleeve right now, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect 5 to 7 and 7 to 1, just like this. Okay? Boom. Just like that. Beautiful. Okay? And then I'm going to connect 5 to 3, just like this. All right? And what I want to do is I'm going to take my blue chalk and I'm just going to put a little star here because that's my front pitch. And I'm going to put a little star here because that's my back pitch. So when we're putting our sleeve on, when we get to that point, okay, this point 3 here is going to correspond with our back pitch here at B on our sleeve, all right? And this front pitch here at 1 is going to match up with our front pitch 2 here on the actual armscye, 0.27 or A, okay? So you can see what measurements we needed to get there, and in my mind, that makes a lot of sense, okay? Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn our attention to the length and so forth of the sleeve, all right? So, and how we establish that beautiful, nice curve, because our arms aren't straight, right? Our arms, you know, when we stand, our arms kind of bend a little forward. Well, we're certainly not going to construct a straight sleeve. How are we going to establish that line, if you will, or that bend, if you will, okay? So right here where our 1 and 3 line cross, this is going to be 0.8. And from there, I'm going to come down 1 centimeter to 0.9, just like this, all right? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my beautiful L ruler, and I'm going to start at my 0.9, and I'm going to end at my 0.1, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line from 9 to 1, and then from 1, I'm going to come down at an angle like so, okay? It's just that easy. Just that easy. Not too bad, right? Not too bad at all. All right. So what I want to do now, okay, is I want to establish where my elbow is going to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down from 3, okay, to 10, 34 centimeters. That's how long my measurement is from the back of my arm here to my elbow, okay? So with my ruler, I'll just come down 34 centimeters from 3. If I can find 34. There we go. Perfect. So this is going to be my elbow right here. Okay? We'll mark that 10. Now 11 is going to be where our wrist falls. And that's going to be actually on this line that we just made. So I'm going to measure from 3 to 11, which is going to be 62 centimeters. And I'm going to need my, excuse me, my ruler to do that, my tape measure, all right? So I just have marked that right here on this line. Beautiful, okay? And now I have to use my ruler here, okay, to come across. I'm just going to use the tip of my pick stitch, all right, my seam ripper, because what I have to do is I have to draw a curved line from that point, okay, from 3 over here, and I'm just going to stop and I'm going to have a mark right there. I'm going to mark it with my tip of my thing, okay? It's going to be right about here. All right, so I've just come over about this far, like so. So you can see by using my tape measure and swinging, I've also created not only an angle for how the front of the sleeve will bend, but also we have a nice little slant on the sleeve at the cuff as well, okay? And that's how you establish that. So what I can do is I can just join these two pieces together here, and then we do have a measurement so that we know how wide the sleeve needs to be at the wrist, okay? And we use something called a scale measurement. And I'm not going to get into all that right now, but we use a measurement called quarter scale, and we add 4 centimeters. So our quarter scale here is 11 and a half. We're going to add 4 to that, so we're going to have 15 and a half. So I'm going to come over from 11 to 12, 15 and a half centimeters, okay? So now, this is going to be 12, all right? Okay, so now 13, okay, is going to be the same measurement from 9 to 10, okay, from 1 to 13, okay? So from 9 to 10, this measurement is about 21 centimeters. So I'm going to do the same thing here, and I'm going to come down from 1 to 13, 21 centimeters, okay? Now, why is this important? Well, because what you need to also recognize then is that the front and the front elbow and the back elbow are not squared, okay? The actual front of the elbow sits 1 centimeter higher than the back elbow, which makes complete sense because of the way our arm bends, all right? But it's a really important thing to remember, and it makes sense based on where the front pitch of the sleeve is, okay? So here we go. Just draw a nice line across, like so. And then, let's see if this ruler is long enough. From here, okay, I'm going to just have a line go from 12 to 3. And this is going to be where my ruler crosses my 10 to 13 line. This is going to be where my mark 14 is. And from 14, I'm going to come over, okay, 3 centimeters to 15. And this is going to be the back of my sleeve at the elbow, okay? So what we can do now is we can connect 3 to 15 and 15 to 12, okay? Just like that. And so now what we have is just about a completed top sleeve. We need a few more points though, okay? What I'm going to do here at 13 is I'm going to come back 2 centimeters for 16. We're going to leave that just for the moment, okay? Now what we have to do is we have to establish the undersleeve. We've gone as far as we can right now for the top sleeve, okay? And we have to establish the undersleeve. So what we're going to do is we're going to take another measurement, okay? We're going to take let's see if I can write it here, A to 27, okay? Did I measure that? Oh, excuse me. Yes, we did. Pardon me. A to 28 is what I wanted. Pardon me. All right. So we want to take A to 28 and B to 15. A lot of numbers. A lot of numbers. Okay. So we want to take A to 28, which is 16, right? And we want to add 8.5. So that's going to give us 24.5 centimeters. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a dotted line from 1 to 3, okay? Just draw a little dotted line from 1 to 3 here, like so. We'll call it a construction line, if you will, okay? And what we want to do is we want to plot that 24.5 centimeters on this line, okay? So we're going to come up from 1 to 3, 24.5 centimeters. This is going to be 17 right here, all right? Right there. Now, I don't want to get too complicated, but what we need to do is we need to add a seam to this, okay? So just bear with me. I'm just going to come up a centimeter here for my seam, and I'm going to come over another centimeter for my seam, okay? Just like that. That's all I'm doing. Just adding a seam, one seam up and one seam over. Very simple. Otherwise, if we don't add that 1 centimeter but both up and over, what happens is when we go to put the sleeve together, you're going to actually be taking the ease in the sleeve that you need away, and you don't want to do that. All right. So now what we can do, okay, so this is 17 here, but 17 actually is attached to the back of the sleeve right here, okay? So we're going to bring 17 to 15 like so. All right, so this is where the back of our sleeve, of our undersleeve, is attaching to the elbow. And now what we can do is we can take our beautiful curved ruler, all right, and we can come up that 1 centimeter and bring that down and around to our front pitch, okay? So this now is going to be the part of the undersleeve, whoops, that attaches, okay? And you can almost see it, right? This is where the undersleeve is coming from this point, because these two pieces come together. The top sleeve and the undersleeve are sewn together right here. Boom, 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 okay? So this is where the back pitch, okay, at 3 and 17 come together here at B. So you can see here, this is where this part of the sleeve will now come down and around and right up to the front pitch. Beautiful. It's beautiful. You can see how it just all works together. It's so flippin' cool, in my opinion. Maybe I'm just a sleeve nerd. I don't know what to tell you. But I think it's pretty cool. All right. So we have pretty much everything we need, just a couple more points. We need to make the false front, and that's pretty simple. What we're going to do here, okay, is we've got to come out a couple centimeters from 1. All right, so we're going to come out 2 centimeters from 1 here, okay, and we're going to come back 2 centimeters from 1, okay, like this. All right, we're going to come 2 centimeters forward from 13 here, okay, and we're going to leave 16 where it is, and then we're going to come forward 2 centimeters from 11 and 2 centimeters back from 11, okay? Excuse me. Let me see, is that right? This is going to go from here to here, here to here. Yes, that's right. Yes, pardon me, I have one more 2 centimeters. Pardon me. This actually does not come forward here at 13. 13 stays where it is. And we come back 2 centimeters from 16. There we go. All right, so now we got to bring this all together, okay? We're coming from here like so to 13 and then out to 11. We're coming from 1 here at the pitch to 16, and then down to 11 again, and then here, etc. Okay? So now what we have is our false front. So let me make it a little easy for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the undersleeve in blue. Okay? So you can see where the undersleeve is separate, if you will, and you won't get all confused. Here, this is the undersleeve there, and of course here, like so. Okay? So when we go to cut this out, obviously because they're laying on top of each other, we have to cut the top sleeve out first, right? Trace it, and then cut the undersleeve out, okay, from the original. So here's our undersleeve here. Of course, it joins. And here's our top sleeve here. The only little point we forgot was we need a little zha-zha right here to finish this off, just like so. Okay? Like so. Okay. So I hope that that all makes sense to you. If anything, you've learned how to draft a false forefront, if you will, sleeve. But more importantly, I think if you take a little bit of time to look at what we talked about today, not knowing anything about how I draft this pattern or what all these points mean, if we just look at what we did in terms of measuring around the armscye, identifying the different pitch points on the armscye itself, okay, and seeing how those pitch points relate to pitch points on our sleeve, seeing how the measurements that we took all the way around the sleeve translated to the various points on the sleeve itself. Now, the only thing left to do, all right, at this point, is to cut the sleeve out, like I said, and then we have to walk the sleeve, all right? We have to walk the sleeve. If this was cut out and the sleeve was cut out, we would walk the sleeve around the armscye. And the reason we would do that is so that we could establish how much ease there actually is in the sleeve. This is extremely helpful because when we go to actually put the sleeve into the jacket, okay, we can say, oh, I have 5 centimeters of ease, which would be about 2 inches, okay, which is typical. That's what you want. You don't want so little ease that you can't move your arm around. So, 5 centimeters of ease throughout the sleeve would be beautiful. That gives me as a tailor an idea of how much ease I need to distribute in between each little tiny stitch that I'm making to bring that sleeve into the jacket. So I say all this to you and I bring you all this information because I think it's really, when I was learning to tailor, I finally sat down and I said, I have to understand every piece of this jacket. I have to break it apart. I have to look at it from a drafting perspective. I have to understand how it's drafted. I have to look at it, the relationship of the different components of the jacket with one another, okay? I have to understand the entire jacket to a micro level so that it'll help me to understand why I'm tailoring the way I am. And so today, that's what I was hoping to do, is to help you understand what the beautiful, intricate relationship is between our armscye and the sleeve. And so with that, we can begin to actually do the tailoring of the sleeve in our next lesson. Thank you for joining me in the Atelier today. If you've enjoyed this lesson, please do like, share, and subscribe. I really appreciate it. And leave any thoughts or questions in the comments section below. I answer every single one. Our next lesson is all about shoulder pads. I'm going to be talking with you about the different types of shoulder pads that are available out there, how to tell the difference between the right and the left shoulder pad, the front and the back, and how to actually cut, shape, and baste your shoulder pad into your coat successfully. You won't want to miss that lesson. That's what's happening next time in the Atelier.